Jake Thomas.
Yes,
In the
sir.
house. Let's tear it up, dude.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I gotta ask, what do you have going on right now?
Right now, I'm on winter break from the University of Texas. I'm a second graduate program studying nutrition science. So I'm
Hmm.
working on getting into their PhD candidate pipeline, to use the word you just said. There you go. To get into a PhD in nutrition science there at UT because I want to learn more about something that I've been interested in for a long time, something I've been practicing by way of what I do with myself, what I do with people that I coach and mentor, and confirm a lot of theories that I've been making and finding out along the way. And this would be my way to actually get some accreditation to all that, to be able to teach and lecture, to be able to pass on and influence, what I think to be the right information to the youth and to the future of this country because they're in a tough spot, man. Statistics prove and show that we are not a healthy state right now as far as in the state of America. We're not, from our adults to our elders to our children, for sure, are not in a good spot physically, nutritionally, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. All the statistics will point and show that, this nation with this tons of might and superiority and infrastructure and all these means and technological advances, yet we continue to regress, and we apparently are statistically more sick, scared, and stupid.
When you say healthy,
Mm-hmm.
what does that actually mean? That we're not as healthy?
It's a great question. So is that a metric of, what's on paper based on body mass index? No. Is that based on paper or as far as in what people's body composition is like? I would say to find the correlations of linear XY graphs of a nation that has so much money invested in its health, as far as in how much we pay by way of taxation, how much is made by way of large pharmaceutical companies as far as in earnings, yet we have an inverse correlation of our personal statuses of health, meaning we might have a longer life expectancy, but we have a less positive sense of quality of life. So great, we're living to 78 years old, 80 years old, but for those remaining 15, 20, sometimes 25 years, people live terribly. They're morbidly obese, they're chronically sick. Like the amount of diseases that exist now that did not exist, let's say 100 years ago, correlated with the same types of food that were not present and able to be purchased 100 years ago,
Sure.
right? So the amount of dietarily related illnesses, chronic diseases, so things like metabolic syndrome and everything that goes along with that, with its hypertension, diabetes, and the other slew of things that are included in metabolic syndrome, should not, based on the amount of money and infrastructure, might, and means that we put into health, should not exist. So when I say we are not healthy, based on all these resources that we have and all this money that we put forth, we should be these beacons of health, physically, emotionally, psychologically. You talked about having served in the Navy yourself. 3/4 of current military-aged males or ma'ams in the United States are unfit for military service based on a few things. Number one, they're physically out of shape. Number two, they have some type of neurological or psychological disorder. Number three, they have a dependency on a prescription drug. 50% of those 75% have two or more of those three things together. So again, 75% of today's military-age males have been found unfit to serve in the U.S. military for three reasons. Number one, they're physically unfit. Number two, they're emotionally or psychologically unstable. Or number three, they are on some type of or addicted to a prescription drug. And then 50% of those 75% exhibit two or more of those. So that's what I mean by unhealthy, and the fact that it is indiscriminate from the oldest to the youngest. That's what I mean by unhealthy.
Yeah, I was touching upon the military specifically. I remember being in, and they were smoking cigarettes left and right. People had a gut that would, extend past, the other parts of their bodies, and they couldn't see their toes, right?
Yeah.
And the food that they serve in the military is not that high of quality.
No.
It's probably bottom of the barrel at the galleys.
Definitely. I was there. I was one of those guys that was smoking all the time. I grew up smoking Marlboro Reds my whole life. And then when I couldn't smoke because we were on type of night operation, or we were having to be tactical and, discreet, I was dipping. I was chewing tobacco. I was using whatever I could to get that nicotine in places when cigarettes wouldn't suffice. There were definitely portly people. There are definitely physically not in shape people in the Marine Corps and the Navy, and in any of the armed services. You will see people that maybe don't necessarily fit the physical bill
Yeah.
of what you would think. But then you think about, well, what are we feeding them? You brought up the point about food. MREs, meals ready to eat. They'll keep you alive, but are they the best food for your body? No, like calorically and based on the macronutrients, they will provide sustenance. They will sustain you. But if you look at what they're actually constructed of and what their micronutrients, their minerals and their vitamins, digestive enzymes, things that are inside them, the preservatives, they're not meant for the human body. If you just think about it, like how can something that is essentially 25 years shelf stable or more,
Yeah.
could that really be necessarily the best thing for us? No, and MREs know that too. Like I'm not going to totally draw crosshairs against them because they still have to provide something for us, and those meals are made to be eaten, for no longer than 30 days or something like that. Even though, of course, we ate them for a lot longer than 30 days, sometimes months during a deployment. But you kind of have to do with what you got at the same time then. And I had this discussion with my mother the other day. She's like, well, what would you change, in the MRE? And like, well, that's a big thing to try to tackle. It's a big thing to try to tackle because we all have these great ideas at these beautiful, marble tabletop of like, hey, we should have, nice organic produce. And like, yeah, that'd be awesome. We should have, raw milk pouches in the MREs. Yeah, that'd be awesome too. Or like grass-fed and grass-fed. Yeah, that'd be great. But it's like, we're talking about trying to satisfy a need where that kind of luxury isn't really permissible. It's not really viable, right? So like, what is the best thing that we can provide that's going to be shelf stable, that's going to be lasting, that can withstand, crazy high temperatures, crazy cold temperatures, different changes in air pressure and whatnot. Like what can we make that's not totally toxic and deadly, that can still keep these people alive? And thinking about like how there's candy in them, right? There's Skittles. Skittles are made with garbage, right? That's literally just chemically created sugars and other genetically modified genetically modified organisms and biochemically engineered food. So it's total horseshit.
Yeah.
But they taste good. They make you smile. They hit that emotional kind of nerve and make you feel like a kid again and say like, like it's not that bad. And for somebody that's in a gunfight, do you want to take that potential smile away from them? And like, what if it is the last thing they have on earth? Like, do you want them to die because they reached in their MRE and they've got, a bunch of organic kale or this great grass-fed meat? Hey, that's awesome. Or would you rather have a bag of fucking Skittles?
Yeah.
And like, hey, this might be the last thing. I don't know. So that it's very easy to, I think, go after that as far as in criticizing, but there's a much bigger holistic kind of realm to tackle there as far as in like there's utility and there's emotion, and like the MRE is about utility. We can cherry pick it and bash it, but it's like it's got to serve a purpose first.
Let's say somebody did find the ultimate solution to provide the grass-fed beef and whatever, right? And they presented it to the government. They would need to get the government to say yes to it, which is a whole nother thing. Right?
Yeah.
Because they have contracts with these MRE companies,
Oh, yeah.
people that produce them.
Sure.
Right? And they're worried about their bottom line.
Sure.
So we had Brian Sanders on here, the owner of, you know him?
Yeah, I was with I was interviewing Brian yesterday.
You were interviewing?
Yesterday, literally. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Shout out to Brian.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How are you interviewing him?
I had him on my podcast yesterday.
On your...
Yeah.
Before he went to Hawaii.
Literally before he went to Hawaii. Yep. Like that yesterday morning, we had to shoot early because he's like, yeah, I got to do this and I got to get on the plane. I'll be gone for 6 weeks. I was like, let's rock and roll.
Okay, so
that was yesterday.
So
Yeah.
And his take on the food guide pyramid.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
It's BS. The food pyramid, the original food pyramid, if anything, I would turn it upside down, right? So that the way it is right now, based with your foundation being grains, cereals, and whatnot, and then ascending from that, produce, fruits and vegetables, ascending from that, dairy, and then at the very apex of it, your meats and animal proteins. I would literally flip that upside down to where the base of my diet, the majority of my calories, and Brian phrases it really well, talking about densities versus energy, like understanding the difference between something that is calorie dense and something that's energy dense, right? The calorie is not it's not a weight. Like people think like I need to burn calories because they weigh on me or they're some type of metric. The calorie is a unit of measure. It's what you use to measure to change the volume or the degree, the temperature of water by 1 degree centigrade. Okay. So it's not something that you're wearing. It's like, I've got all these calories on me. It's like, no, that's a unit of measure of energy. So Brian phrases it well in the sense that empty calories, they debit us calorically, but at the same time, they don't provide to us nutritionally. All right. So like if I take a can of soda and it's got 250 calories in it, I'm going to be debited by those calories. My body is going to still consume and absorb those 250 calories, yet they are not providing me any nutrients.
Right.
So it's like putting money into an arcade game and not getting to play the game, right? It's kind of stupid. But we use this fucking pleasure center in our mouth, the tongue, and the pleasure centers in our brains to buy into that because it feels good, it tastes good, it makes us, turn on all these hormones that make us want more of it and keeps it addictive the way it is, as opposed to something that's nutrient dense, calorie rich, and essentially whole. So side by side, you have your can of cola and a piece of steak the size of my fist. Well, as far as in calories and nutrient density, this one has zero nutrition to it. So it's essentially empty.
Junk.
Whereas this one is a 100 out of 100 as far as in nutrition and density. So it's full. The calories are full. So this fist-sized piece of steak, let's say it's 500 or 600 calories, but it's got naturally occurring amounts of protein, fat, amino acids, all these great vitamins and minerals that are just naturally made that way by Mother Nature herself. This thing is created, made, totally biochemically engineered, would no way exist. And would you be able to find it out there in the natural world? So like when people talk about, what is processed food or how do you define processed food? If you can't make it in your kitchen, it's processed. If you could never make it in your kitchen by way of the equipment, the money, or the means, it's highly processed. So that's one way to do it. So this is processed. This is highly processed. You're not making it in your kitchen. This is right there. There's a freaking deer right there, right? Like right there.
Yeah.
This exists naturally. This does not. So like Mother Nature has this beautiful way of feeding us and regulating how we eat and how we absorb and how we consume things. So like with fruit, it comes in this great little basket or this great little wrapping of skin or husk or hide or whatever that we have to get into. And then it's got this cool deliverable package and these pieces that we can eat. And then by way of eating these pieces, we germinate we pass the seeds through our digestive tract. And when we evacuate the seeds, we help the fruits bear more fruit by growing and reproducing. It's like a really cool little process. And by ingesting those, we get these naturally occurring electrolytes or other types of vitamins and things like fiber that might help us create, better digestion for ourselves. It's amazing. Like Mother Nature packages this stuff, but regulates it too, to where it's not like we can just down 1,000 grams of sugar in a gulp like you can from a bottle. It would take a mountain of bananas to do that. It would take a mountain of oranges to do that. And you'd have to earn your way to get there. You'd have to peel them all. You'd have to get to it. Mother Nature has this cool way to make us want it. Imagine if you had to eat 20 bananas, right? That's a lot of work. I mean, you got to peel, you got to bite, and then, I don't know, when was the last time you ate 20 bananas? That's been a minute for me. I don't ever. And think about it. If you eat about 4 or 5, you're probably like, dude, I really don't want any more bananas, right? There's a naturally occurring thing that's kicking on there. You got these two hormones regarding hunger, ghrelin and leptin, one telling you to eat more, one telling you to kind of stop and slow down. When you're drinking this stuff, you could get a 2-liter Coca-Cola, you and I both, and we could down it. You could. We both could do it. Yeah. It's physically possible. Totally possible. The amount of sugar that would be in that compared to a mountain of bananas, very, very, very difficult to eat the mountain of bananas.
Yeah.
Very, very, very easy to down that cola. Empty calories, zero energy, zero nutrition. All the energy, all the calories, all the nutrition.
And it's like we're dooming ourselves as a society, but making things taste so good.
It's hard to be a modern human in the modern world because everything out there is based on pleasure for the most part. We do not eat to live anymore. We live to eat. Everything about our lives is about consumption and escape. We're celebrating. Hey, let's go eat.
Yeah.
Hey, we're mourning. Let's eat. Hey, we're giving thanks. Let's eat. Like, hey, we're fucking bored. Let's eat. We're traveling. Let's eat. We're whatever. There's always a reason. There's always an excuse. There's always an accessory about it because we're so hyper fixated on consumption and at the same time escape because we do not like introspection anymore as a modern society. We do not like having to be the being part of a human being. Everything about our world is about go out there, go in here, stay here, stay here, stay here. Don't. It's a fucking beautiful day right now looking out this window. It's a beautiful day. There's people in the park, thank God. But I mean, like, that's where we belong, you know? And it's like, it's hard for us to kind of combine the modern world with our innate sense of yearning and belonging to Mother Nature. So we're caught in this weird little place, and like how to discern or disseminate like what's right or what's wrong is tough, especially when you've got so many layers to get through. As far as in, I'm wired this way, I'm wired that way, I'm connected this way, I do this virtually. Like, okay, it's not impossible to kind of tap back into that, but it can definitely take work to do.
In 30 seconds or less, I've got to ask you about beef.
Okay.
Okay. So you get crap beef, which is like McDonald's. That's the worst of the worst beef. And then a step above that is like Texas Roadhouse beef, probably. Okay, they load it up with salt. But let's talk about grass fed, grass finished, and then maybe where the cow gets the grass or whatever. Like, what is actually the best, and how would we look for it in the shelves?
Good question. First, I would say no matter what the beef, no matter what the quality, no matter where it's from, the lowest grade of meat, of real animal food and protein, is going to be better than the highest grade of processed nonsense. So, you want to cure diabetes cost effectively? You can do it by eating bologna and hot dogs from Walmart. Now, is that the highest quality meat and beef? Absolutely not. But literally, you can stop type 2 diabetes by way of eating hot dogs and bologna from Walmart. So that's one thing. I would always take the animal protein over any processed nonsense. Anything that's a packaged box or a wrapper that's got 5 ingredients, like 10 ingredients, 15, 20, whatever. You got to tell me what this is. Like, how about it's just steak? How about it's just grass-fed beef? How about it's just meat? How about it's just chicken, fish? Like, eating ingredients as opposed to eating things made of ingredients.
Yeah.
And certainly those ingredients you can't pronounce, you don't know what they are, and they're 15 syllables long. It's probably not a good place to start. So, to your question, grass-fed, grass-finished, free-range, pasture-raised, organic, regeneratively, a lot of buzzwords out there.
There's a lot.
Right? Great place for people to start. Number one is going to be the perimeter of a grocery store. It's always where you're going to find produce for the most part, where you're going to find meat, seafood, etc. Right? It's all the cold stuff. So when you first walk into a grocery store, most places you're going to see a lot of colors because it's produce.
Yeah.
So fruits, vegetables, fresh things, things that are alive, things that you can pick, pull, and kill. That is essentially the perimeter of a grocery store. Pick, pull, and kill. And that's what I would say for most people. That's the ring you should try to live within. Once you get into the aisles in the grocery store, that's where you get into the danger zones. All right. So within that pick, pull, kill world, and in particular with meat, like you're asking, different phases and qualities of beef. You got 4 major beef producers in the country.
You're kidding me.
4 major ones, yeah, that are responsible for the majority of beef that most people consume in the U.S. Now, most of that beef is done by way of feedlots. So the animals are born, bred, calved, raised, and essentially just put into a feedlot where they're just feeding with a kind of a yoke around their necks and just eating until they're fattened up enough or largened up enough to be slaughtered.
Man.
Now, by default, every animal, every beef cow should be eating grass at some point in its life to be able to say that it is grass-fed. But so most feedlot animals are not getting that opportunity, which sucks. And they are fed that way. They are mistreated. It's a terrible, terrible thing, definitely. And you'll see that by way of pricing, by way of what's not labeled on the packaging. You know, you see something that just says, bologna, doesn't say anything about hormones, doesn't say anything about antibiotics or how the animal was raised or where it was from. You probably can assume it's probably not the best meat. It's probably not the highest quality. I don't want to say best or worse. I'll just say the quality is certainly less than something else. Whereas on the other side, in the extreme, when you're asking about what's the best, well, let's say of the highest quality, the check marks are going to be grass-fed is a great one to see. Pastured, as far as in certain types of cow or pork, chickens even pasture raised. So things meaning they're actually roaming, they're actually foraging around. Like chickens don't, when you see a vegetarian diet, well, chickens aren't vegetarians. So why would you feed a chicken a vegetarian diet? That's one thing. Chickens forage, they're on the ground, they're biting worms, they're eating ants, they're eating bugs. Like they got freaking claws and a beak. You think that's a vegetarian? right? Like, look at their feet. Um, but for beef, that high side is going to be something that's grass fed. If it's grass fed or finished, that's a different story. So grass fed is one thing, grass finished is another. Some people think it has to be grass fed and grass finished. I don't necessarily agree with that. And it doesn't necessarily determine that it's the highest quality meat or beef for you either, because you can have something that's grass fed, but then maybe it's grain finished on a non-GMO, so non-genetically modified organism, organic grain that is curated and custom made by the farmers themselves, which many farmers do, where it's like a 5 ingredient thing with like a cottonseed hull, some type of rye, some type of barley, another type of wheat, maybe some type of other thing, where it's a handful, a very small, particular handful of things that has been made specifically for this farm or for these cows. That's high grade. How the animals are treated, where they live, how much space they have, what's their quality of life like, how many of them are there? You know, somebody that's got 5,000 head of cattle versus somebody that's got like 50 head of cattle or 500. What's their capacity like to be able to monitor those animals? Best thing you can do as a customer is get to know a farmer. You want to know more about it? Ask a farmer. You want to know more about it? Ask the butcher. Those are the best people in the world to talk to. Those are the people that will tell you everything you want to know about it, because they've just been waiting to talk your ear off, because no one else gives a shit. I swear. You go to HEB, go to Central Market, go to Sprouts, go to Trader Joe's, anywhere. Talk to the butchers. They are dying to tell you, because no one else cares. No one else talks to them. No one else asks them. People just, yo, give me 5 pounds of that. Cool, thanks. See you later. Yo, let me get 2 pounds of that. Cool, yeah, thanks. See you later.
Yeah.
Hey, what was your name? Greg? Oh, Greg the butcher. Do you know where this cow comes from? Actually, man, that's a great question, Jake. This one just came in today from our place in West Texas, blah, blah, blah. We just slaughtered it this morning. Wow, that's really cool. What's the ranch like over there? Oh, they got about 2,000 acres and a couple hundred head of cattle. It's a pretty cool operation. Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, nobody ever asked me, so I'll never tell them. I swear to God. Yeah.
Where was this?
HEB.
You're kidding.
I swear.
I'm surprised that the HEB butcher would know that.
Dude, the HEB, Whole Foods, I mean, anywhere. Like, it's just the fact that we as consumers and customers need to take more accountability as opposed to just blaming it all on the system. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of blame on the system, but it's like, hey man, nobody's making you go there and nobody's forcing these foods down your throat. These are all conscious choices. But making a more informed conscious choice, that's up to us. So being able to understand the difference between the lowest grade and the highest grade, and I don't just mean by like select, choice, prime, you know, blah, 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 like you grade beef, but knowing what grass-fed means, knowing what grass-finished means, knowing what pastured, organic, like eggs are a great example. You see all these colorful boxes and wow, this is so cool. Oh my God, organic, pasture-raised, cage-free, open range, outdoor access. Oh wow, blah, blah, blah. But only one of them might say soy free or corn and soy free. Ooh, that's cool. But you would never know if you don't sit there and look and wonder and freaking ask questions. So I'm not going to say I'm like an authority on beef. Like, I'll tell you what I think the range of things is, but like, really, dude, just ask people questions. They're dying to tell you.
Let's talk a little bit about soil. Thank you for that, by the way. Great depiction. Krill's the quickest 30 seconds. Yeah. Way to go. No kidding. Soil. We had a man on here who was a executive of Merrill Lynch and Wall Street for many of years. And then he gave that life up, hit the peak of success and decided to get into the food industry. He's making a really cool product where you can grow your own stuff inside your home in urban spaces, but on a mass scale, which is a differentiator. Nice. And what he focuses on is the quality of the soil. And he educated me a bit about this, that most of our soil in the country, maybe most, I don't know, a good bit of it, isn't of quality. What's your take on that?
He's right, in short answer. And to go back to the beef thing for 30 seconds, 30-second answer, just read the labels.
Read the labels.
Pay attention, read the labels. Be a more accountable and informed consumer. Don't be more mindful as a consumer. Don't blame the system. It's not the plane, it's the pilot. As far as in the soil, yeah, I like to say if we could fix the soil, we'd fix the people, right? Because we are eating an animal that's eating what's being fed. And what it's being fed, whether it's grass or grain, it's still growing out of the ground that it's living on, right? So it starts before that. So what the animals are eating, are what we're eating. We eat what we eat eats.
Yes.
Okay, so people say you are what you eat. You are what you eat eats is a better way to say it. So a lot of places the soil has just been tilled over so much and deprived and depleted of nutrients because it's been run over and remilled and just not kind of had things put back into it that promote regenerative practice. And that's why like regenerative farming is such a big thing now, because people are actually understanding the life cycle that goes into, okay, extraction. We don't have to just totally leave it destroyed after the fact. We can do this in a way that is replenishing cyclically, right? So like when you talk about pasturing with animals, if you just have a herd of pigs or chickens, ducks even, eating and grazing in one area, they're gonna mow that down. They're gonna kill it. They're gonna do what they do. So pasturing and doing that with like soft fencing, you have them set up in one area for a certain amount of time. They do that. They take all the grass down. Then you move them to another area.
Mm.
You move them to another area. And so like by doing this kind of patch called patch pasturing,
Yeah.
grass goes down. They eat everything there. They clean everything out. You take them to another place. They work on this one. As that one's being done, this one's growing back. If you've ever seen it here in Austin, you ever see the goats cutting grass on the side of the road here? Okay. So if you're ever running down Lady Bird Lake or any of the Finger Lakes here, every so often you might see a guy pull up with a trailer full of goats. And they will literally get out and they will rope off an area where there's grass with an electric fence. It's like a little soft electric fence. And they let the goats out and the goats cut the grass.
No.
They're natural grass cutters. All right. So like pasturing with animals and why regenerative agriculture is important and kind of a really good thing to be doing and why so many people are into it now is because of that soil preservation. Because if you just hammer and hammer and hammer the soil, it can only provide and produce so much, just like
Go ahead.
with sex, okay? You can't just do what you do as a man just repetitively over and over and over, right? You need to build back up in order to produce again, right?
Yes.
So like you have an output and then there needs to be some downtime to kind of like
Recharge.
recharge, right? And then you can output again.
Yeah.
Some people can do it sooner than others. Some people can do it faster.
You're
But
great with words.
some people need more time, right?
Yeah.
The soil is a living thing. We take from it a lot. We extract from it. We demand of it. And it's tired. It gets tiring, right? So we're taking water out of it, we're taking nutrients out of it. And as much as it's creating those things and providing them, it also lives off of those same nutrients. So for us to just draw all these minerals and good richness out of the soil, if it's not getting replenished and getting time to rest itself, it's not recovering and it can't regenerate the same level of richness and nutrients the way that it's been in the past. That's why this the gentleman you were mentioning could probably talk on it. Like, let's say soil was putting out had a potency of like 99, 200 years ago in certain places. That potency might be like 50 now because it's tired, it's run down, it hasn't had a chance to rebuild and revitalize and re-energize itself. So now with this kind of like regenerative agriculture push, which is great, and people are doing these like patch pasturing, the soil is rebuilding itself naturally the way it's supposed to, because animals, through their defecation, through their saliva, through their digestion, they put all that natural fertilizer back into the ground. It's amazing, right? Plants die, animals die, all that goes into soil as opposed to just hammering this thing over and over and over with monocropping and trying to yield out as much as we can as far as in product and volume with zero regard. Because like, oh, it's just dirt. It's not. So that's why I say if we fix the soil, we fix the people.
What do you reckon a goat costs these days?
Man, I don't know. I figure it can't cost more than a couple $100.
Couple $100?
I guess like if we were to go to not a farm show, what's
A live goat.
a livestock show.
4-H.
Yeah, a livestock
show.
show. I'm saying I think it'd be a couple $100,
Couple $100?
if even.
Yeah, I drop $75 every 2 weeks to get my lawn mowed. I figure why not just get a goat?
Now he might or they might not be as precise as that mower, but like I think it'd be a great business. As soon as when I saw that, I was like, that'd be kind of fun to do, man. Like,
Yeah.
But you'd have to have like a disclaimer of like, hey, we might not be razor sharp perfect on those lines, like don't
It's hard to
expect
train the goat.
don't expect like baseball fields, one way or their way kind of lining. But I just thought that was super cool because it's like literally what they're meant to do, and like here they are cutting the grass in Austin.
I've never seen that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, super cool.
So I got a question about the not the soil, but how processed food is processed through the liver
Mm.
and being turned into fat. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah, so a lot of what's going through the liver gets processed and by way of either insulin and the secretions of other hormones that are kind of telling the body to store things and be in a state of storage, processed or otherwise. Like you can get fat off non-processed food, sure. Like people think like fat is what makes you fat. No, it's the change in the chemical change that takes place by way of the ingestion of the wrong thing, so to speak, that kind of disrupts the normal type of body chemistry to where you've gotten too much insulin, you've got too much glucose going on to where your body's like, should we be storing this or should we be digesting it? Should we be utilizing it? And that's what happens to most people. It's they're wearing essentially all this stored amount of energy that they haven't been able to utilize, and it just sits there and it turns into fat.
So, what kind of internal dialogue do you have when you're making your decisions about your diet choices? What
Mm.
does it look like?
So, good question. I try to live in this nice big fenced area of pick, pull, kill. If I can pick it, pull it, or kill it, this is a pretty good place to start, right? Now, have I had issues in the past? Or like, look, I grew up in New Orleans, man. Like everything's fried, smothered, and covered, super rich, super decadent, and
Wow.
pleasure centric with food and with alcohol too. So like, I grew up in that world. I grew up eating that way. So there's still a lot of that cultural attraction to me, or I should say, connection. Even though it doesn't feel good, it doesn't serve me anymore. So like over the years, it's become less and less of a thing for me to be drawn to that. Like I eat now because of how things make me feel, much more so than how they taste.
Well, the good tasting things do make you feel in the short term good.
So like everything I eat now tastes great, and everything I eat now makes me feel good, as opposed to some of these other things might taste awesome, but they don't make you feel good.
Right.
Maybe they feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
Hey, they feel great right now, but then you're hungover the next day, two, or weeks, or God knows for how long, or just for what it does to your body. If I know what this is made of, and I know biochemically this is not going to sit well with me because of what it is, and my body's going to get a shocking reaction of like, how do we deal with this? How do we digest this? What do we do with it? Do we store it? Do we utilize it? Where does this go? There's a lot of unfamiliarity by way of processed foods to the body, whereas opposed to everything that's pick, pull, or kill, the body is a very familial sense with. It's very easy for it to use and digest and understand where and how to make way of things like breast milk. Breast milk is this amazing miracle of mammalian evolution to where our infants get everything they need from a single source of sustenance. It's a perfect carrier. It's easily deliverable. It's right here, right? It's immediately utilized. There's minimal discard. But the most important thing about breast milk is that it stresses their bodies the least.
Mm.
It is the food that stresses their body the least, that provides them the most, but stresses them the least. So if we think about why is that important? Well, because if we give a child or infant the wrong thing, they could fucking die, period, right? Something that's too difficult for them to swallow, something that's too sharp, that's too sharded, that's too spicy, something that's just in some way too difficult for that infantile body and digestive system to handle could have horrible after effects. So what is the one thing we can give them that gives them everything that they need in the form of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, macronutrients, micronutrients? It's easily deliverable. It's very quickly utilized. There's minimal discard, and it stresses their bodies the least. It's breast milk. So why?
Right.
It's kind of a rhetorical question. Do we not do that now? Or do we not continue to do that through life? Like, what are the best things that we can eat and consume to get the most out of that stress our bodies the least? So when people talk about what's the healthiest diet, that'll be a never-ending debate. What's the best diet? That'll be a never-ending debate. What is the most optimal? Now we're getting somewhere. Because best is very debatable. It's always going to be opinionated. Healthiest, very debatable. It's always going to be opinionated.
Well, plus, you have people with ailments that can't have
You got a lot of
and stuff.
You got a lot of emotions also invested in that, and a lot of tribalism that goes along with, I'm dying on the vegan hill, I'm dying on the carnivore hill. This is right, this is wrong. But if we talk about optimal is a key word, because optimal kind of puts a lot of that away, meaning like it doesn't matter what your feelings say, it doesn't matter what your opinion says, it doesn't matter what your research or your theory. I want to know what the most optimal. So optimal immediately means efficient, Optimal means less variables, less sources, most from least. So if we say most optimal, okay, well, now that puts everybody on blast.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you think about spinach, no matter what you think about apples or potatoes or this and that, if we talk about most optimal source, the most optimal source of nutrition in the world for a human being is going to be red meat. Well, what does that mean, Jake? Well, if you go gram per gram of red meat compared to any other food that we could consume, nothing has that type of nutrient density, meaning the amount of macronutrients by way of protein and fat, the amount of amino acids by the way of protein, the amount of vitamins and minerals that come with that naturally in the parts per million that are naturally existing in that, as opposed to someone says, well, I can get all that from spinach. Okay. For the fist size amount of steak compared to the amount of spinach it would take to replicate that,
A mountain.
it'd be a mound. Okay.
Yeah.
And then where would you find that in the natural world? Nowhere.
Right.
We are very short-sighted in history as far as in our understanding of agriculture. Again, the deer is right there. I can see it. Piece of steak like this that is right there. So when we talk about most optimal, if I eat this, I'm not going to get gas. I'm not going to have indigestion. Neither would you. If you eat that mountain of spinach, you could have a lot of adverse reaction. Not to mention you're going to have a lot of bowel movements to pass all that too. So we go back to the infant. What is our way as adults? What is our way to find the most with the least? Now, I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not saying it's the healthiest. I am saying it's the most optimal. Now, can it also be the best? Some might say so. Can it also be considered the healthiest? Some might also say so to that too.
Yeah, the interviewing folks like yourself, Brian, Draco.
Draco's awesome too. Love Draco.
Yeah, Amer with Mod Garden is the company that's bringing this stuff to the urban space.
Nice.
Yeah, it really changed my life, and I hired a woman that cooks meals and delivers them to my place once a week, and she uses the top of the top quality ingredients.
Amazing.
Right, all organic and everything in between. And since then, I remember I ordered some custom pants about 2 months ago.
They don't fit now.
They don't fit at all, dude.
Yeah.
There's like a gap it's crazy. And I just kept my workout routine the same.
And you look great. And you're probably thinking like, I didn't really have weight to lose or inches to lose. Visceral fat is a funny thing.
Dude, yeah, I had like 42 pounds of fat or something for these body scan.
Wow.
And I'm like, no way. But yeah, is there.
Well, you look awesome, man. Good job.
Thank you. I'm intentional about it. I appreciate that. And to my point, I kept the workout regimen the same. Yeah. And my energy levels, you talked about this, what's going to give you the most energy.
Yeah.
They're consistent throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
No afternoon crash. And you just feel amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're doing is working, right? Sharing this important, powerful message, what Brian's doing, what Draco's doing. More people need to be aware of this kind of thing. I think the percentage of people that are aware of this kind of thing is minuscule.
Yeah.
Right? The numbers don't lie. 75% of our military.
Yeah.
Right? They can't really do their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. The obesity rates, what is it now?
It's crazy. 1 out of 3 children, probably.
Kids?
1 out of 3. Yeah.
Right.
1 out of 3.
And so
adults is plus 60%.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's not good. So let's talk a little bit about work, because you help people for a living, right?
Yeah.
You do things on your calendar that take up a little bit more time than others, right? Let's focus on the one where you take on clients and you're a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's walk through that. Let's say I'm somebody that wants your help. What does that process look like?
Good question. I feel like we all need help, number one. And I think for a lot of people, it's realizing that the help you need is probably not necessarily the help you want. Right? Because it's hard, man.
It's hard.
And I tell people that without trying to scare them away, when anyone comes to me for personal growth, development, mindset, something to learn about leadership or how to, get out of their own way, so to speak, get clean from substance, booze, deal with trauma, sexual, emotional, PTSD, issues with skin, issues with their bodies, changing their physical bodies, body recomposition, so gain weight, lose weight, any of those. All those are challenges. All those are tall tasks, and all of which most people have tried in some way or another or multiple ways and have not been successful. They've shelled out a lot of money. They've gone to a lot of places. They've tapped gurus, they've been told they can't, they won't, it's impossible. So they've got a pretty good resume for the most part of it's not working out. They're tired, they're frustrated, they're ready to quit, a lot of them. So when I get them and then I tell them, guess what? It's not about to get any easier. Fuck. You're hoping like you get here and it's like, oh, thank God I'm finally here. I made it. Like it's all going to be okay now. No, this is going to be the longest drawn out bit of delayed gratification you'll ever get.
Because that's the key to success, delayed gratification.
And especially when it comes to the body and the mind. Like you are not going to get a, snap change of like, oh my God, I got muscles, or oh my God, I lost the weight. It's going to take time, sacrifice, dedication, all that. So like to me, it's really managing expectations with radical candor right off the bat.
Yes.
And telling someone like, dude, this is not a magic pill. This is not a silver bullet. This is not a quick fix. This is about real, substantive, permanent, lasting change. I'm not here to fucking show you how to get a butt. I don't care. Like, I don't need you. I'm here to like tap into you and make you change from the inside out, not from just putting on some superficial bullshit. There's plenty of other coaches. There's plenty of other programs. There's plenty of other ways to do that. Anybody can teach a monkey.
6-minute abs.
Yeah, sure. Right. Anybody can teach a monkey to do that. But to me, it's about, there's a lot of hurt out there. There's a lot of hurt people and a lot of people that are in denial, a lot of people that live in escape, a lot of people that are avoiding themselves. And so to me, it's about helping them understand, like, without that being satisfied, without those voids being filled, all the muscles in the world, all the money, all the women, God, fame, whatever, it's not going to matter. It's not going to be happy. You won't be happy. I've tried. I failed at that for years. I still try to do it. I still try to think I can tap into that and be okay with materialism. It doesn't work. Like if you do not have your own self-worth or sense of self-worth and truly appreciate it and really love and revel in your own self-respect and esteem, like it's not going to come with a six-pack. It's not going to come with money. It's not going to come with attracting that mate. It's got to be here, because when I start taking you through fasting, and I don't just mean with food, but distancing and omitting and wherewithal to push things out of your life, you're going to realize what it's like to introspect.
Now you said it's gonna be here. How would you label what here is?
Oh, the being in human being, right? So like human being is a noun, but it's a state, right? So the being part is what most of us are disassociated from. We are human external. We are human, outside. We're not human being. Because everything about us is about escape. It's about now. It's about give it to me. It's about who can I just pay? How can I work around this? What's the shortcut? And to me, is getting someone on that first day and saying, this is not going to be a shortcut. This is not going to be a fast track. Like you're going to put it in or you can fucking leave. And I love that. To me, it reminds me of, you talked about being in the Navy. It reminds me of recruit training. When you first get there, and it's like, to me, taking a lot of the leadership principles learned from the military, the sense of hierarchical rank structure, just kind of what's expected of you, the accountability, the fortitude that's required, the candor that you have to have, just the
sense of urgency.
Sense of urgency. God, perfectly said. Like, how do I impress that to people? Because those are just the absolute hacks to life. Like you want to hack in life, you want a competitive and a comparative advantage to your peers, to your subordinates, to your competition. It's right there. It starts with this sense of personal space and good discipline and urgency, right? So how do I bring that to other people? How do I tap that into them? How do I give them a sense or a glimpse of what you saw and underwent, what I saw and underwent, that I know is a great resource and tool for success, right? So it's like trying to put that into a little pill for them to be able to do, but impressing that by way of my own leadership. So I lead by demonstration. I lead by embodiment. I don't just tell people like, hey, do this, do that. Like I live it. I don't ask anything of anyone that I've ever coached or mentored that I either don't currently still do myself or that I haven't done in the past. So I have a client right now who is dealing with some intense bacterial and cellular level issues with her histamine responses and intolerances to food. So she's got a very high histamine intolerances, most food, to where it's hard for her to eat almost anything.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And she and I have been talking about fasting for a while, and I've been fasting for years. But dry fasting has been a very new thing to me over the last few years, and something that I've been really reading into a lot and studying a lot, to where there's not a lot of good literature as far as in scientific and like backed and verified literature to support it. So it's very anecdotal. Now, there is some literature. There's one in particular by a guy named Dr. Sergei Filanov from Russia. It's kind of like the man, I would say, when it comes to dry fasting and
He's at the tip of the spear.
yeah, for sure. But as far as in America and as far as in Western medicine, like, no, 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 no. So she and I have been discussing about a cyclical type of dry fasting regimen. And, one of them was a 7-day hard dry fast. So that's 7 days without water, without food, and hard, meaning with no contact with water. So no teeth brushing, no hand washing, no bathing, nothing. Zero contact with water for 7 days. So I'd done 72 hours before of hard dry. So 3 days of no water, no food, no touching of water. I'd done 5-day like water fasts before. But, asking this person or suggesting to this person that's a client of mine to try this or do this, it's like, I can't do this unless I do it. I couldn't ask her to do this because I wouldn't be able to relate to her. I wouldn't empathize with her. So like, I did it, I just did it a couple weeks ago. But to me, it's about truly, truly, truly leading from the front like that, right? Because there's so much bullshit out there by way of what other people do in the field of coaching. They don't walk the walk. They don't live what they preach, and they certainly, as hell, don't embody it. Like, first thing I would say, as far as in coaching, if you're trying to get in shape, your coach should be in shape. Why would I ask you how to get in shape if you're not in shape? If I'm trying to make money, why would I ask you how to teach me if you don't have money? If I'm trying to attract something, why would I teach or ask someone who's never been on a date before? Like, I want to acquire by way of what I admire in someone. So to me, if I'm trying to offer health, personal sense of worth, good physical stature, I damn sure better look that and damn sure better be that. So that's what I do. That's who I am. So if that's not what you're interested in, well, it's probably not what I'm going to offer you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. That's good. It's a good approach. It's a reality check.
Yeah.
You're rewiring their brain. You're rewiring their perspective.
Totally.
You're tapping into the core of what really matters.
Totally.
Don't mind me. I've just got to check the clock here.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we got just a couple minutes before our next guest comes in. Now, I was going to ask you about the introspection, because you brought that up 2 or 3 times. I'm going to ask you for your opinion, so don't hold back.
Oh, boy.
Opinion alert, everybody. Why do you think people are afraid of that or not doing it?
Because, great question. In short answer, because it's unfamiliar, right? So like anything, and here's a fucking nickel's worth of free advice on how to attack life. Anything in your life that is unfamiliar, and because it's unfamiliar, it is uncomfortable. All you need to do to no longer make it unfamiliar and uncomfortable is make it familiar, and it will become comfortable. What does that mean, Jake? Okay, if you don't know how to dribble a basketball because you don't have good hand-eye coordination, you've never done it before, so it's like really awkward, or I'll say with my left hand. My left dribble is not that great because I'm right-handed. Man, this is so awkward. This is very uncomfortable. Well, how often do you practice it? Well, not a lot. So it's unfamiliar. Yeah. So how do I get better at it? I'm going to do it a lot so it becomes familiar. And because of it becoming familiar, it becomes comfortable. And all of a sudden, I'm ambidextrous with my dribble. But if it stays that way, unfamiliar, it's going to fucking stay uncomfortable. Yeah. So for us with introspection, we have gotten so distanced from doing that as modern humans, it is very unfamiliar and thus is very uncomfortable. Example, I take away you or anyone on the streets digital devices for a day, 24 hours, digital fast, social media, everything.
Right.
Most people, I would say 9 out of 10 people off the street, they'd freak the fuck out. They're not going to know how to sit still. They're going to be stir crazy. They're not going to know how to handle themselves. They're going to be a little fidgety. It's not going to probably be a good 24 hours. That alone, to me, shows the disconnect we have with ourselves. And that's why I say the drive of introspection is a pivotal point in personal growth and development. Because the answer is not out there. The answer is not how many retreats you can go on to Bali or how many times you can go to Peru and drink ayahuasca. It's awesome. I'm not knocking that. But it is not about the escape. It is not about the action. It is about the lack of action that real personal growth and development happens. It's about the lack of action and the delve into the deeps of introspection where you really, really find the stuff that you need to find because it's been ignored. It's been not listened to. It's been silenced. It's been pushed down. But when you go in there because you have nothing else, because you're on a 7-day hard dry fast with no food, no water, no exercise, no TV, what else do you have? The point is, and the kind of paradox of that is, you have everything. That's the point. The point is, exercise is great. I do it. It's part of what I call the craft.
Yeah.
But when you're not doing that because you're preserving energy, because you're not drinking water for 7 days, and like right now I'm dry fasting, so I'm a little parched, pardon me.
That's okay.
When you take all those little toys away, all those outlets of, even though they're good outlets, but yoga's great. But when you don't have that and all you have is yourself, if you think, fuck, this sucks, you need to stay there longer. Because when you realize that all you have is yourself, thank God, because that's all you need, dude. But it takes time to get there. It takes time to be happy with that. It takes time to believe that. Because at first, the first time you get there, you're like, this sucks. Give me my phone back. Like, this sucks. Give me my toys. Give me my outlet back. Give me my escape back. So little by little is what I walk people through to get there. Because you can't just shock the system and dunk somebody's head underwater like that. They're not going to make it. This is about, like I said, sustainable, long-lasting, substantive change. And you do that through a process that I've developed and created, and you execute it with fucking military precision, and it will yield to you an autonomous fucking terminator of a human being if you follow the steps right.
Yes. You use the word precision. It's very important. The success of our lives is embedded in the most minute details.
Absolutely, man.
Getting as small as we possibly can to live a big life. That's right. Man, I feel like we could keep talking for 3 more hours on this stuff. This is a fired up chat.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you?
Life Like Jake, everything. LifeLikeJake.com. All the social channels are at Life Like Jake.
Life Like Jake. So the name of this podcast is Elite League Podcast, because we want to take people that are, our definition of elite are people that are on a forward and upward trajectory in life. They're in a growth plan, and that are also shedding light in the world by education, by helping others, so on and so forth. So you definitely fit that mold. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, man.
It's a fired up chat. Appreciate your time. My name is Greg Carlson, your host of the Elite League Podcast. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, smash that subscribe, and most importantly, everybody, stay fired up.